The massive alien ship appeared in Earth's orbit on a Tuesday morning. It was 3 times larger than the biggest human space station. Within hours, every screen on Earth showed the same message. Greetings from the Galactic Council. Captain John Morgan stood straight in his freshly pressed uniform as the shuttle carried him toward the alien vessel. At 42, with gray starting to show in his dark hair, he never imagined he would be humanity's first official representative to alien life. The shuttle docked with a gentle thud. "Remember, Captain," said Lisa Wright, his diplomatic advisor, "show confidence but not aggression." She adjusted her glasses and checked her tablet one last time. "These beings have been watching us for decades." The door opened to reveal a long hallway lined with beings of various shapes and sizes. Some had too many limbs. Others had skin that shifted colors. A few floated without touching the ground. A tall, blue-skinned alien with silver eyes stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Zeal of the Viridians, senior member of the Galactic Council. Welcome to the community of civilized worlds." His mouth didn't move when he spoke. The words simply appeared in John's mind. "Thank you for your welcome," John replied. Earth is honored to meet its galactic neighbors. The council chamber was enormous. 27 different species sat in tiered seats around a central platform. John noticed how the various aliens grouped together. The Viridians, elegant and tall, occupy the highest tier. The insect-like Exorexians clustered together, their antennae moving in perfect unison. The ancient Molterans, with their stone-like skin, sat perfectly still at one side. "Humanity has achieved faster than light travel only recently," said a Soraxian representative, its voice clicking and buzzing. "Yet they have already established colonies on Mars and Europa. Impressive for such young beings." "Young and unpredictable," rumbled a Molteran elder. "They fought 3 world wars, then created beautiful art and music. They poisoned their oceans, then developed technologies to clean them. They are interesting." Lisa leaned close to John. "They're talking about us like we're not here. That's not a good sign." The council asked many questions about Earth's resources, military capabilities, and political systems. John answered honestly but carefully. Lisa made notes on which questions seemed too interested in Earth's weaknesses. "The council has decided," announced Ambassador Zeal after hours of discussion. "Earth will be granted probationary membership. You may establish colonies on 3 approved planets. You must follow council trade regulations. You will have limited voting rights until your probation ends." "How long is this probation?" John asked. "A mere century or 2. Zeal replied with a wave of his 4-fingered hand, a blink of an eye in galactic terms. Later, in their private quarters, Lisa shared her concerns. "Did you notice how the Viridians and Soraxians kept glaring at each other? There's serious tension there." John nodded. "And they're very interested in our mineral resources and military technology. Not so much our art or philosophy. I heard 2 Viridian assistants talking when they thought I couldn't understand them," Lisa said. "They mentioned Earth was perfectly positioned as a buffer zone between their territory and the Soraxians. So we might be just a convenient shield for them." John frowned. "What about the Molterans?" "They're the oldest species on the council. They seemed more curious than calculating," Lisa replied. "But they have little power compared to the others." Unknown to the humans, a private council meeting was happening 3 decks above them. "Humans develop technology quickly." "Too quickly," said the Soraxian Queen's representative. "Their military potential could be useful against your expansion," a Viridian diplomat countered. "The important thing," rumbled the Molteran elder, "is that humans not realize how unusual they are. Their adaptability and independence could upset the balance we've maintained for millennia." Ambassador Zeal's silver eyes narrowed. "We will guide them as we have guided all new species. They will serve the Council's needs without knowing it. Their resources will strengthen us. Their military will fight our battles." "And if they resist?" asked another species. "No species has successfully resisted the Council," Zeal replied. "Humanity will learn its place, as all others have." Back in their quarters, John looked out at the stars. Something tells me the Galactic Council isn't the friendly neighborhood association they pretend to be. Lisa nodded. Then we'll need to be very careful about what we agree to. 5 years passed since humanity's first contact with the Galactic Council. Earth had established colonies on 3 Council-approved planets: Proxima Centauri, Kepler 186f, and TRAPPIST-1e. The initial excitement of joining a galactic community had faded. In its place grew a quiet frustration. Greg Daniels walked through the military base on Proxima Centauri, his officer's uniform crisp despite the planet's humid atmosphere. At 36, he had risen quickly through Earth's space defense ranks. Today, he had been summoned to a secure meeting room by his superior. "Captain Daniels," said Admiral Rice, "what I'm about to show you cannot leave this room." She placed a data chip on the table between them. One of our intelligence officers found this in a damaged Viridian scout ship. Greg inserted the chip into a reader. Holographic text and diagrams filled the air above the device. The documents were in the Council's standard language, which Greg had studied for years. "This can't be right," he said, reading faster. "According to this, the Council never intends to give Earth full membership status. Ever." "Keep reading," Admiral Rice said grimly. Greg's face darkened as he continued. "They've classified humans as potentially destabilizing. They plan to restrict our colonies to these 3 planets permanently. And they've already divided our solar system's resources among themselves for future extraction." Back on Earth, Susan Taylor, the Secretary General of the United Nations, sat in her office overlooking New York City. The skyline had changed in recent years, with alien-inspired architecture rising among the older buildings. "The Council has rejected our petition for a 4th colony world," said her aide, handing her a tablet. "They cite resource management concerns as the reason." Susan sighed. "That's the 3rd rejection this year. What about our request to upgrade our ships with Council standard shields?" "Also denied. They say our technology level isn't ready." Susan stood and walked to the window. "Yet they expect us to supply them with titanium, uranium, and rare earth elements at below-market rates." She turned back. "Begin preparations for Plan Delta." Quietly. On the Council homeworld, Ambassador Zeal of the Viridians addressed the Council chamber. "The human colonies are expanding too rapidly within their allowed zones. Their military capabilities grow concerning." A Xeraxian representative chittered in response. "We should increase surveillance on all human worlds. Install monitors in their communication systems." The Molteran elder spoke slowly. "Humans learn and adapt quickly. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach. In my 5,000 years, I have never seen a species master our technology so rapidly." "Your concern is noted," Zeal replied dismissively. "But the Council has maintained galactic order for 12,000 years using these methods. Humans will be no different." In a private chamber after the meeting, Ambassador Zeal met with a Xeraxian Queen's representative. "The Molterans grow soft," Zeal said. "Their species is too old, too philosophical." The Xeraxian's antennae twitched. "For once, we agree. But the humans worry me more. Other species fear us. Humans do not." "Fear is learned," Zeal replied. "When their petition for expanded mining rights is denied next month, we will demand increased resource quotas from their existing territories. When they protest, we will demonstrate our displeasure. They will learn." Meanwhile, on Kepler 186f, Greg Daniels met with Lisa Wright, who had become Earth's chief diplomatic advisor. They walked along the shore of an alien sea, scanners checking for listening devices. "The Council is fracturing," Lisa said quietly. "The Viridians and Xeraxians barely maintain their alliance. 3 minor species have approached me privately about deals outside Council channels." Greg nodded. "I've been studying their military capabilities. They're stronger together, but individually. We could match any single species." "The Council survives on fear and economic dependence," Lisa replied. "Most member species are afraid to stand alone." but Earth was independent before we met them. Susan Taylor has asked me to prepare defense options, Greg said. Not for war, for independence. Lisa smiled slightly. Smart woman. I've been drafting a diplomatic framework for the same purpose. Above them, the alien sun painted the clouds purple and gold. On the horizon, Earth's first major city on an extrasolar planet was taking shape. The Council thinks they're dealing with just another primitive species they can mold to their purposes, Greg said. They have no idea what humans are capable of when pushed too far, Lisa replied. And I think they're about to find out. The message from the Galactic Council arrived on a rainy Tuesday morning. Susan Taylor read it twice before looking up at her advisors gathered in the emergency meeting room. They want 40% of all rare mineral deposits from Earth and our colonies, she said. They're calling it membership dues. 40% would cripple our economy, said the economic advisor. We can't possibly agree to this. Greg Daniels, now promoted to admiral, spoke up. This isn't about resources. It's a test to see how far they can push us. Karen Miller, a diplomatic officer with 10 years of experience studying alien cultures, nodded in agreement. I've been reviewing historical records we've gained access to. This is their standard approach. They push new members until they submit, then increase demands slowly over centuries. There's more, Susan continued. Any member who doesn't comply faces an economic blockade. No trade with any council world. The room fell silent. Earth still depended on certain council technologies and trade routes. Alan Peterson spoke next. He was a military engineer with a reputation for brilliant solutions. I have news that might help our situation. My team has successfully reverse-engineered council shield technology. We can now protect our planets and ships as well as any mid-tier council member. How long to implement it fleet-wide? Asked Greg. 3 months at maximum production, Ellen replied. Maybe less if we get help from the colonies. Susan nodded thoughtfully. That buys us time. Karen, what have you found in your diplomatic research? Karen pulled up images on the main screen, evidence that the Council has been manipulating interspecies conflicts for millennia. They deliberately keep member species fighting each other, so none become strong enough to challenge Viridian and Soraxian control. Can we prove this to other species? Susan asked. We already have, Karen said. I've been quietly sharing evidence with representatives from 7 other worlds. They're as unhappy as we are. 2 weeks later, Susan Taylor stood before the Council in their grand chamber. Hundreds of representatives from different species watched from tiered seats. The atmosphere was tense. Earth appreciates the opportunity to address the full Council, Susan began. We've prepared a detailed response to your request for increased resource contributions. Ambassador Zeal nodded impatiently. The Council is pleased Earth recognizes its obligations. Susan smiled slightly. Actually, we've come to present evidence. She activated a holoprojector. Documents, recordings, and data filled the air around her. These records show a pattern of Council manipulation of member species, economic exploitation, engineered conflicts, technology suppression. Murmurs ran through the chamber. Some species looked shocked. Others nodded as if long suspicions were confirmed. This is outrageous. Zeal stood, his blue skin darkening with anger. These are internal council matters, not for public discussion. Transparency is part of Earth's diplomatic tradition. Susan replied calmly. We believe all members deserve to know the truth about council operations. The Soraxian representative's antennae quivered with rage. Earth oversteps its bounds. Perhaps their probationary status should be reconsidered entirely. The ancient Molterand elder raised a stone-like hand. Let us hear them out. These accusations are serious. Susan continued. In light of this evidence and the Council's unreasonable resource demands, Earth has reached a decision. She paused, looking around the chamber. Earth respectfully declines the transition to full Council membership. We request neutral status instead. The chamber erupted in chaos. Many species shouted at once. The Viridians and Siraxians looked stunned. Impossible. Ambassador Zeal finally regained his voice. No species has ever rejected council membership. The consequences will be severe. We understand there may be difficulties ahead, Susan replied. But humanity has always charted its own course. Later, in a private chamber, the council leadership met in emergency session. This cannot be allowed, the Taraxian Queen's representative hissed. Others will follow their example. We should make an example of them, Zeal agreed. Economic blockade immediately. Military action if necessary. The Molteran elder spoke slowly. Careful. Humans have been preparing for this moment. Did you notice their confidence? They have a plan. Back on their ship, Karen turned to Susan. They'll retaliate. Try to force us back in line. Susan nodded. We're counting on it. That's when we'll see which council members are truly loyal to them, and which are ready for change. Greg Daniels joined them, looking at a datapad. Shield installations are ahead of schedule, and our new allies are standing by. Then it begins, Susan said quietly. The day humanity walks a. The withdrawal began with remarkable efficiency. Commander Eric Russell stood on the bridge of the Earth ship Constellation, watching as the last transport vessels lifted off from Kepler 186F. On the main screen, he could see hundreds of colonists' homes standing empty, 10 years of human work abandoned in a matter of weeks. All personnel accounted for. Sir, reported his second-in-command. The mining equipment has been loaded. We're ready to depart. Eric nodded. What about the defense grid? Activated and masked. If council ships scan the planet, they'll think it's uninhabited. But if they try to land, they'll get a surprise. Eric allowed himself a small smile. Set course for Proxima Centauri V. Let's pick up the colonists there next. Back on Earth, Linda Coleman, the planet's chief economist, briefed Susan Taylor on the financial aspects of the withdrawal. We've been preparing for this for 3 years, Linda explained, displaying charts on the wall screen. Each colony reduced council imports by 30% annually. We stockpiled essential materials, built our own production facilities in secret locations. What's our economic outlook? Susan asked. 6 months of hardship, then stability, Linda replied. We've established black market trade routes with 17 council worlds, whose species are also unhappy with council leadership. They'll trade with us despite the blockade. Susan nodded. And our new friends. The Belorians and Talaxites have officially broken from the council to join us. 3 other species are waiting to see if we succeed. In council space, the reaction to humanity's withdrawal was chaotic. Ambassador Zeal addressed an emergency session. The blockade is in place. No ships may trade with Earth or human colonies. Their economy will collapse within weeks. They will beg to return. A representative from a small, frog-like species spoke up. But what about the resources we depended on from human worlds? My people need Earth metals for our medical technology. Adjustments will be necessary, Zeal replied dismissively. The Viridians will provide alternative sources. At triple the price, no doubt, muttered another representative. For the first time in thousands of years, open disagreement spread across the council chamber. The Exaraxians blamed the Viridians for pushing humans too far. The Viridians accused the Taraxians of secret dealings with Earth. Smaller species began questioning why they should suffer for a conflict they didn't create. Meanwhile, a secret meeting took place on a small moon at the edge of council space. Eric Russell represented Earth. With him sat representatives from the Belorians, tall beings with 4 arms and golden skin, and the Talaxites, a species of brilliant scientists who had been denied full technology rights for centuries. The Council has sent 3 warships toward Proxima Centauri, the Belorian ambassador said. They expect to find your colony defenseless. Eric smiled. They'll find nothing but automated defenses. All our people are safely evacuated. The Council underestimates human speed, said the Talaxite scientist. They're used to species who take decades to make decisions. Eric nodded. We've had plans ready for years. We just needed the right moment. The Talaxite leaned forward. We have something that may help you. The Molterans sent us information about Council military patrol routes. They wish to help quietly. The Molterans. Eric was surprised. They're founding members of the Council. They've watched the Council corrupt their original vision. The Balorian explained. They created the Council to share knowledge and resources. Now it exists to control and exploit. On the Viridian homeworld, Ambassador Zeal received disturbing news. What do you mean, the humans are gone? He demanded. The military commander's hologram flickered. All 3 colony worlds are empty. They evacuated everyone and took all valuable equipment. They left defense grids that damaged our scout ships when we tried to land. Impossible. Such an evacuation would take months. They did it in weeks, the commander replied. And there's more. The Balorians and Talaxites have announced an alliance with Earth. They're calling it the Free Systems Alliance. Zeal's silver eyes widened. Find them. They must have relocated to unclaimed systems. We're searching, but the commander hesitated. Some of our patrol ships aren't reporting in, and several minor council members have denied us access to their territories for searches. In her office on Earth's mobile command station, Susan Taylor received the latest reports. The Council is fracturing faster than expected, her aide said. Their military responses are uncoordinated. Their economic blockade has more holes than substance. Susan looked at the star map, showing the positions of former human colonies, now serving as decoys with automated defenses, and the actual new settlements hidden in previously unmapped systems. Humanity didn't just walk away, she said quietly. We showed others they could walk away too. 6 months after humanity's withdrawal, the effects rippled through Council space. On the trading hub world of Gerillo, shops stood empty where once they had displayed goods from human colonies. Prices for common metals had tripled. Food shortages affected 17 worlds that had relied on Earth crops. Carol Bennett, Earth's new ambassador to non-Council worlds, walked through a marketplace on the neutral planet Vega Prime. Traders from a dozen species offered her goods openly, ignoring the Council's blockade orders. The Council threatened to revoke our trading licenses, a reptilian merchant told her. But they cannot patrol all routes, and too many worlds need what we provide. Carol nodded. Earth appreciates your courage. We have medical supplies to trade if you're interested. Across the galaxy, in the Council's Grand Chamber, a meeting descended into chaos. The Balorians were our main source of fuel crystals, shouted a representative from a small mining world. Now they've joined this Free Systems Alliance and doubled their prices to Council worlds. Ambassador Zale tried to maintain order. The Council has alternative sources for all resources. Temporary shortages, Heir. Temporary, interrupted another representative. My people have been on ration cards for 2 months. Meanwhile, Viridian worlds have full supplies. Curious, isn't it? The Thoraxian representative's antennae quivered angrily. Perhaps the Viridians made secret arrangements with humans before they left. That would explain much. Zeal's blue skin darkened with anger. How dare you? The Viridians have enforced the blockade most strictly, while Thoraxian patrols mysteriously fail to intercept human ships in their sectors. The chamber erupted in accusations as species blamed each other for the growing crisis. The ancient Molteran elder watched silently, his stone-like face unreadable. On the planet Newterra, hidden in an unmapped system, Alan Peterson supervised the activation of Earth's new planetary shield. Enormous generators hummed to life, creating a protective bubble around the entire colony. Shield at 100%, reported a technician. It can withstand anything short of a Council dreadnought's main weapon. Alan smiled. And even their dreadnoughts would need multiple hits to break through. Send word to Earth. Newterra is secure. The news arrived just as Greg Daniels was briefing Susan Taylor on recent military developments. A Viridian battle group tried to establish a base on the abandoned Kepler colony. Greg explained. Our automated defenses damaged 2 of their ships before they retreated. Casualties? Susan asked immediately. None. The systems targeted propulsion only, as programmed. We're not looking to kill anyone, just make occupation too expensive to maintain. Susan nodded with approval. And the council response? That's the interesting part, Greg said, bringing up a holographic display. The Viridians blamed the Xeraxians for not providing proper intelligence. The Xeraxians accused the Viridians of a deliberate failed mission to justify increased military spending. 3 minor council races have publicly questioned why resources are being used for military action rather than addressing supply shortages. Linda Coleman entered with her own update. We're receiving reports of public protests on 7 council worlds. Citizens demanding government reform and questioning council leadership. How serious? Susan asked. Unprecedented, Linda replied. The council has maintained control for thousands of years, partly because member species rarely saw alternatives. Now they're watching the Free Systems Alliance grow stronger while their own worlds face shortages. Meanwhile, on the Xeraxian homeworld, the Queen met with her advisors in her underground chamber. The Viridians grow more hostile daily, chittered her chief strategist. They blame us for letting the humans escape, and we blame them, the Queen responded. But the true failure belongs to the council system itself. She touched a glowing map showing trade routes. For too long, we've allowed the council to control our destiny. Perhaps it is time the Xeraxians considered alternatives. Back on Earth, Carol Bennett returned from her diplomatic mission with surprising news. 7 more species want to join our alliance, she told Susan, including the Dalatians, who control major hyperspace lanes. Susan looked thoughtful. The council has existed for 12,000 years. We expected it might take decades to change the galactic order. They were built on fear and control, Carol said. Once one species walked away successfully, others found their courage. And humans showed them how. Greg Daniels studied the galactic map, where former council territories now glowed in alliance colors. The first cracks have appeared in their perfect system. And cracks have a way of spreading. The Free Systems Alliance held its first official meeting on the neutral world of Vega Prime. Representatives from Earth, the Belorians, the Talaxites, and 7 former council races sat at a round table, a deliberate contrast to the council's tiered seating that emphasized hierarchy and power. Paul Mitchell, Earth's chosen alliance ambassador, opened the session. He was a calm man with a gift for finding common ground between different viewpoints. Welcome to a historic day, he began. Each of us has chosen independence from the council. Together, we can build something better. The Belorian representative, her 4 golden arms resting on the table, spoke next. For 3,000 years, my people provided fuel crystals to the council. They paid us 1/10 their value and restricted our technology development. No more. Around the table, each species shared similar stories of council exploitation. The Talaxites had been forced to hand over scientific discoveries. The Nidorians had seen their worlds used as military bases without consent. The pattern was clear. The council had never been a union of equals. The alliance must be different, Paul said firmly. We proposed 3 core principles: non-interference in member internal affairs, mutual defense against outside threats, and fair trade without manipulation. The meeting lasted for days as the representatives debated details, but the atmosphere remained cooperative. No species sought to dominate others. The shared experience of council oppression had taught them the value of true partnership. Meanwhile, on a council border world, a confrontation was brewing. A council military commander had positioned a battle fleet near Alliance territory. Surrender your illegal coalition and return to council authority. The commander's message boomed across communication channels. This is your only warning. The message was met with silence. The commander ordered his ships forward, expecting the minor species to crumble before council might. Instead, a defensive line of ships from 7 different alliance species appeared, working in perfect coordination. The commander hesitated. His orders were to intimidate, not start a war. And the council itself was divided on how to respond to the alliance. Without unified backing, he pulled his fleet back. Word of the council's retreat spread quickly. 3 more systems announced their intention to join the alliance the following day. In the depths of space, the ancient Molteran ship approached Earth's hidden diplomatic outpost. Unlike the sleek vessels of other species, it resembled a drifting asteroid, its surface rough and natural. The ship belonged to Kern, oldest of the Molteran elders. When Kern stepped onto the station, Susan Taylor was waiting. The Molteran moved slowly, his stone-like body thousands of years old. "Secretary Taylor," he rumbled, "I come with news and a decision." Inside a secure meeting room, Kern revealed his purpose. "The Molterans are leaving the council," he said simply. "We were founding members 12,000 years ago. Our departure will fracture its ancient power structure." Susan maintained her composure despite her surprise. "You're the most respected species in the council. This will have enormous impact." "The council has strayed from its original purpose," Kern replied. "It was meant to share knowledge and protect younger species. Instead, it exploits them." His ancient eyes studied Susan. "Humans reminded us of our own past, when we were young and refused to accept injustice. On the Alliance world of New Terra, Nicole Adams, an intelligence officer, made a disturbing discovery. She rushed to the command center where Eric Russell was reviewing defense plans. "Commander, I've intercepted council communications," she said, her voice urgent. "The Viridians are preparing biological weapons for use against Alliance worlds." Eric's face darkened. "Are you certain? Even the council has laws against bioweapons." "The evidence is clear." Nicole handed him a datapad. "They're developing pathogens tailored to human, Belorian, and Talaxite biology. The Exaraxians don't know. This is a Viridian project only." "We need to alert all Alliance members immediately," Eric said, "and prepare countermeasures." "Today marks the formal dissolution of the Galactic Council," Paul announced. Their final act was to release all member species from treaty obligations. A murmur ran through the assembled diplomats. Though expected, the news still carried enormous weight. A political structure that had dominated the galaxy for 12 millennia had officially ended. "The council failed," Hall continued, "because it was built on control rather than cooperation. It used fear rather than mutual respect. It took rather than shared." He gestured to the Alliance emblem displayed behind him. Stars arranged in a perfect circle, with none placed above others. "We offer a different path. Equal voice for all members. Technology shared, not restricted. Defense through cooperation, not domination." 3 former Council enforcer species requested formal recognition. Once, they had imposed Council will through fear. Now they sought a new beginning as equals. "The transition won't be easy," Paul acknowledged. "But for the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy's future belongs to all of us together." Ambassador Zeal read the report with growing alarm. The Council's power had always rested on 2 foundations: military strength and economic control. With both now crumbling, the 12,000-year-old institution faced unprecedented crisis. In her office on Earth, Susan Taylor received the latest intelligence briefing. "The Molterans have officially announced their withdrawal from the Council," her aide reported. 3 other founding species are now questioning their own membership. Susan looked at the Alliance flag on her wall, a simple design showing stars arranged in a circle, representing equality among members. "The Alliance started as a defensive measure," she said, "but it's becoming something more important. A new model for galactic cooperation." 1 year after humanity's withdrawal from the Council, the galaxy had transformed. The Alliance now included 19 species, with more applying for membership each month. Where the Council had ruled through fear and manipulation, the Alliance built bridges of cooperation and mutual respect. On the planet New Terra, representatives gathered for the first Galactic Congress. The meeting hall had been designed specifically for this event, with seats arranged in concentric circles, so no species appeared more important than others. Amy Rodriguez, Earth's new Secretary General, stood to address the gathering. At 39, she represented a new generation of leadership that had never known life under Council rule. "Welcome to all species from the furthest reaches of known space," she began. 1 year ago, few would have believed this moment possible, a gathering of equals, each voice valued, each contribution honored. The hall was filled with beings of every description. Some breathed methane instead of oxygen and sat in special chambers. Others floated in water tanks. Some were silicon-based life forms that moved like flowing crystal. Despite their differences, all listened with respect. "The transition has not been easy," Amy continued. "Old habits of distrust run deep, but look at what we've accomplished together." Behind her, a display showed images from across Alliance space. Former Council worlds holding their first democratic elections. Trading posts where multiple species exchanged goods freely. Research facilities where scientists shared knowledge without restriction. 19 species now form our core alliance, Amy said. Representatives from 21 more attend as observers today. Our combined territory spans 1/3 of the known galaxy. Among those observers sat a delegation from the Viridians. Once the proud leaders of the Council, they had spent months in isolation as their empire crumbled. Now they watched quietly, their blue skin and silver eyes no longer symbols of power, but merely distinctive features of one species among many. After the opening ceremony, Steve Jackson approached the Viridian delegation. Security personnel stayed alert nearby. "Ambassador Zeal," Steve nodded politely. "I didn't expect to see you here." The once mighty Viridian looked older, his posture less imposing. "The new Viridian government sent me as a gesture of continuity." He seemed to struggle with the concept. "Our people have voted for reform. We wish to apply for Alliance membership." Steve maintained a neutral expression. "That will be considered like any other application, with due process." "Of course," Zil replied, looking around at the diverse gathering. "It is difficult to adjust. For 12,000 years we led. Now we must learn to walk alongside others." Steve studied him. "That's what humans do naturally. No species is meant to rule forever." On the other side of the hall, Greg Daniels, now Earth's defense coordinator, met with military leaders from different Alliance worlds. They were finalizing a mutual defense protocol that respected each species' sovereignty while ensuring collective security. "The key difference between us and the Council," Greg explained, "is that we defend each other because we choose to, not because we're forced to." A former Council military commander nodded thoughtfully. "In the Council, we never trusted our allies. We expected betrayal. Fighting together was difficult." "Trust must be earned," Greg agreed. "But it starts with the assumption that cooperation is possible." Later that evening, a celebration brought together representatives from all species. Music from different worlds blended in surprising harmony. Foods from various planets were shared and enjoyed. Cultural performances demonstrated the rich diversity of galactic life. John Morgan, now Admiral of Earth's exploration fleet, stood with Lisa Wright watching the festivities. Both had gray in their hair now, having been among the first humans to encounter the Council years ago. "Did you imagine this when we first stepped onto that Council ship?" Lisa asked. John shook his head. "Never. I just wanted to make sure Earth wasn't exploited. I never dreamed we'd help create something entirely new." "That's the thing about humans," Lisa said. "We don't accept bad situations as permanent. We walk away and build something better." Across the room, Amy Rodriguez signed the final peace accords with representatives from 40 worlds. The document established principles of non-interference, technological cooperation, and cultural exchange that would guide galactic relations for generations to come. As ships from dozens of species arrived in orbit around New Terra, their lights visible from the planet's surface like new constellations, John Morgan raised a glass. "To walking away," he said quietly. "Sometimes that's the most powerful thing you can do."